So we're going to talk briefly about groups, and I'll probably go into this more in detail for mechanical, maybe a little bit for structural, but this pertains to all disciplines. So groups are ways to literally group elements together so that you can copy and paste without, and then make changes to one version and it affects all of the other version. They're very much like blocks in Rhino. So for instance, I drew this level 10 floor plan out, but I actually wanted to start at level 7 and go up to level 17. So I need to go to the plan where I drew all of these walls, and they don't all have to be done or correct. This is just sort of a starting point, and I'll show you how to edit these as well. So I'm just going to right click on one of the walls. I'm going to select all of the instances. I know that they're all in the project are here, and you can see all of them highlight. And now I can go up to modify walls, and then under create there's a group option. So I'm going to create a group here, and we'll call this residential tier, whoops, is that how you spell tier? Tier 1, let's just call it plan. And then hit OK, and now I can select away, and you can see that they all sort of group together at once. I can also go to my project browser, and I can see that under the groups there's a model group here. We're not going to get into detailed groups, but model groups are collections of model elements, and you can see there's this residential tier 1 plan. I can also create an instance of it. I can select all of the instances of it in the entire project, so I can see how many I have. You can actually filter it out to see to count how many floors you have. But let me go ahead and move this down to level 7 because I know that that's where my residential floors actually begin. This is a double height sort of lobby space for the residential. And now if I look at this group, it's referenced at level 7, and let's get into the editing. You can see that it's not here in level 10 anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and go to view, plan view, and I'll make a floor plan for level 7. It's going to take a second. Again, if your computer is going kind of slow, then you can always manage your work sets that you load in. And let's see here, shaded. So oops, that's still level 10. This is the right one. Let's go ahead and change this to shaded. And now you can see all of those walls here, right? So some of them I have overlapping walls because I didn't edit in the group correctly. So what I can do is I can select this group and I can edit the group, or I can double click on it. And now I can select certain things. I can delete it. I see all of these sort of weird overlapping lines. Just going to go ahead and move that there. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and align it with that. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit check, and now I'm ready to sort of copy and paste this to other layers. So array doesn't work as well with groups as you would want it to, so what I recommend is actually just Control C or go to modify and copy to clipboard, and then we can paste a line to selected levels. So before I do that, I want to go to an elevation and check what levels I need it to be. It's up to level 17, so I'm going to place it up to level 16. So I can go to, again, modify, paste, align to selected levels, and I know it starts at 7, but I already have one there, so I'm going to go 8 to 16. And so now it's going to paste all of these groups that if I select it, you can see that it tells me it's residential tier 1 plan. And if I go into a 3D view, you can see that I'm starting to build out the model pretty easily. I just modeled one floor plan, and now I pretty much have what I want. And if I double click into this plan, you can see that any wall that I select is starting at the right level and ending at the top constraint that's above it. So if you manage your first constraints fairly well, you'll always see that the unconnected height will be correct. So let's just go ahead and delete this wall and then hit finish. Now you can see that all of those walls were deleted. So this is really powerful to add things as well. So if you want to add something, you can always edit the group. You can modify some stuff in the plan, and then it will edit all of them from there on out. So you can see how powerful something like this can be. And again, this works for mechanical, it works for structural, it works for whatever. I'm going to go ahead and go back to, let's see, this one's on level 10. I'm going to edit the group, and now I'm editing it here in level 10. Let's go to architecture floor, and then we can actually make this a structural floor or an architectural floor. So you can have multiple overlapping groups, and they'll start to interact with each other. You can see that the walls are not connected to each other, and that is one of my gripes about groups. I haven't figured out exactly how to auto join the walls from floor to floor, but for right now it's actually working in our favor, and when we sort of change the graphical standards, we might just have to do it once where we delete the exterior walls and make some new exterior walls, or we can get rid of the sort of overlapping ones with the graphics. But let me just go ahead and put a floor architectural here. You don't need to necessarily do a floor architectural if you have a structural floor. And I want to go ahead and place it based on the inside of the walls. And I am placing it at the wrong level here, you'll see, so I'm going to have to change that. But let's just go through and finish this. And whenever the screen turns yellow like this, that means you're editing within a group. And again, WT or TW to get out of it, you can actually see what you're doing in another view. So I recommend, especially if you have a second monitor, it helps out a lot to be able to see what you're doing between views. So there we go. And actually, before I hit check, I'm going to change this to level 10. And I can keep this as a 12-inch generic floor, and then I can hit check. And let's see what happens when I attach the walls here. We don't want to attach the walls, so because the walls below it are in a different group, we can now see our floors back in there, and our walls will be associated with the level instead of the floor. So there's our floor, and you won't necessarily be able to see it through the model because I have overlapping elements. So that's why I know a lot of people are having difficulties being able to see through. But now, because I've modeled this floor, I can change, for instance, the mass. So I can turn the mass off, or maybe I did it as site or generic model. Let's just turn all of the imported categories off. Give it a second, and there you can see that that's just my floor plan, right? So I have a nice clean floor plan with just all of the modeled elements. For all of the floors, because your fire stair might be modeled separately, I would probably keep your residential tier inside rather than doing the exterior elements. That's probably something you might keep for your structural engineering anyways, because these might be like shear walls or whatever. So I'm going to hit finish here. And now you can see if I go to isolate element that I have a residential floor plan. So this is exactly like the blocks. And I know that my floors are now kicked behind the walls. So that is an introduction to groups. Well, one more thing before I end. To save you a lot of modeling time from group to group, let's say I go from a tier and I just need to chunk out this portion, for instance, right? What I would do is I would probably copy this to the clipboard, and then I would paste a line to the next level, which for me is going to be level 17. You can see it pops up there, but that's incorrect. So I'm going to ungroup this, and while I have everything selected, I'm going to regroup it, and now I can name it another one. So I'm going to call it residential tier 2 plan. And if you were doing everything, you could group all of the mechanical and all of the structural together, but I would probably do those separately because your structural, you might not even have to deal with groups because your columns will go from here to here. But this is especially important for mechanical and for architectural. And now I can double click in this group and I can just delete the walls that I don't need, for instance. And And actually, let's go ahead and go to modify. Let's take this and that. Whoops. Let's just bring it back. Yep, right there. And there you go. I'm going to hit finish. And so now you can see that that is done without having to do a ton of work, right? Because I know that most of my floor plans are fine. I'm missing a wall there. But then I can go into, what is this, floor plan 17. So I'll go to view, plan, floor plan, and then that would be 17. And that would actually have to change, so I'd have to actually go to 18 because where my park levels are, these aren't apartments, so just keep that in mind. But that's what's really nice about groups as well, is that you can just copy and paste to the next level and then delete the one below it, or ungroup it afterwards and delete what you don't need so that it becomes a unique thing. So let's go to shaded here, and then you can see that this is going to have to be edited down. But that's essentially how groups work. Groups, even though the elements aren't joined, you can now do things like place architectural curtain walls. So let's go to the storefront. And let's go from level, I guess, 7 to, I don't know, 12 or something like that. So let's go to 7 and then 12. Right, so it will snap here, and now you can see I'm just placing a whole wall. So that's, for larger sections here, you'll still see the floor, so you might have to pull the floor back in the group or pull the element out of the group. So you can always edit the group, you can select an element, and you can remove it from the group. It's just like displaced views. So right, I can remove that, and it's gonna sort of take them all out. So rather than do that, I'm just gonna show you how it works. But if I were to place a window, this window in that group, it would go to all of them. So there are many ways you can deal with your curtain walls. So for instance, if you have spandrel glass here, you could do a strip of spandrel glass and then a strip of sort of storefront, and then that would repeat from floor to floor. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. Let's just edit this guy, go to wall, storefront, make sure it's 7 up to, it would be the 7 plenum, and so I'll just draw a line here, and then I'll do another one which will be from 7 plenum to 8, and that's going to snap here to here. And it's not perfect because you would see, you would see structure maybe right here, so you'll probably have to adjust that in the end, but it's much easier to adjust one group than it is all of them. So here you can see that these will associate. So there you go. Yeah, look, I already have sort of a curtain wall being created because these are part of a group, and that is an introduction to groups for you.